Integrity itself, Shuei Fujisawa's samurai movie, Twilight Seibei 2002, directed by Yoji Yamada, Shachiku Films. Samurai movie originally written by Shuei Fujisawa, who was born in Shiroka City, Yamagata Prefecture, are usually made into movies about famous people who reformed the era, or famous people such as Mito Kamen, Toyama Kinsen, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. The story does not center on the protagonist, but instead focuses on a low-ranking samurai from the Edo period, a poor samurai. For that reason, you might think that this is a boring story, but that would be a big mistake. You can prove what's wrong by actually reading the novel or watching the movie, but his novels are about the ultimate theory of life, which is how we should live our lives. I will explain the details in a moment, but one piece of evidence is that as of 2002, the year the movie was made, the number of paperback copies in circulation exceeded 23 million. What is it about his works that are so overwhelmingly popular? This film is the attempt by Yoji Yamada, the director of Atako wa Chureo, who was constantly making contemporary drama films, and was moved by his works, to take on the challenge of making samurai drama films. As for the reaction it received domestically in 2002, it won the Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Music. It won top prizes in almost every category. I can't wait to see what kind of work it turns out to be. So, let's get started. This is the Shonei region at the end of the Edo period. This is present-day Yamagata Prefecture, when Seibei Iguchi Hiroyuki Sanada, who works as a gazoiku, manager of warehouses for goods collected as taxes such as rice and grains, hears the sound of the drums at the end of the evening work. He hears the sound of his colleagues. He refused invitations to drink and went straight home, doing housework and working at a side job making baskets. This is in order to pay off the debts he incurred from taking care of his elderly mother who suffers from dementia and her two young daughters, eldest daughter Kano, Miki Ito, and second daughter Ito, Arina Hashiguchi, as well as the cost of medicine and funeral for his wife, who died of pulmonary tuberculosis. Seibei is busy with his daily life, living in poverty with only the clothes on his back, and his appearance becomes dirty. Some of his colleagues made fun of him, calling him Twilight Seibei behind his back because he would go home at dusk. In the spring, Seibei is reunited with his best friend Linajo Anuma Mitsuru Hukikuchi. Linajo reveals to Seibei that his younger sister Tomoe divorced because her husband's Toitaro Koto Renasuji, alcoholic husband, frequently assaulted her. When Seibei returned home, he found a beautiful woman there. She was Tomoe Miyazawa. She had sneaked out of the Ainuma household to visit Seibei's house because she was bored of being forced to do all the work. Seibei once again has a faint crush on Tomoe, her childhood friend, who happily reminisces about her childhood and plays with her daughters. Meanwhile, that night at the Ainuma family, a drunk Kota, angry at being divorced from Tomoe, challenges Linajo to a match. Seibei, who drove Tomoe to the Ainuma house at night, subdued the violent Kota and declared that he would take Linajo's place as his opponent. The next morning, Seibei and Kota met on the riverbank behind Hinaichi Temple in the castle town. The difference in skill between Seibei's short wooden sword and Kota's long sword was so great that Kota immediately fell to his knees. "Will you touch me and apologize? Or do you want to continue like this?" At Seibei's question, Kota looked like he was about to give up and tried to apologize again. But Seibei jumped and hit Kota in the head, ending the match. Kota drew his sword and shouted, "I'm going to cut you." But Seibei easily defeated him with a single wooden sword. Before long, the rumor spread even within the castle. Tomoe continued to go to Seibei's house and take care of her housework and her daughter. The days were calm. One day, the lord of the Unasaka domain passed away at a young age. A succession battle soon broke out. Dark clouds gather within the domain. This is because the opposing forces of the Unsaka clan are trying to seize power. In this day and age, family disturbances can be life-threatening. Feeling that her life was in danger, Linajo offered to marry Tomoe to her best friend Seibei. When Linajo asked his girlfriend's younger sister Tomoe if she would become Seibei's wife, her cheeks turned red, telling Seibei how she felt. However, Seibei may have been fine when they were together, but Tomoe will definitely regret it if 3 or 4 years later, when she finds out that it is so difficult to live on an income of 50 koku, his late wife finally couldn't get used to living in poverty. I don't want Tomoe to feel that kind of pitiful feeling. He asked Linajio to forget about this story. From this conversation, I could feel the kindness of Seibei's heart. This is because, even if she is the only one who feels happy, he thinks that if Tomoe goes through the same pain as her ex-wife, then she should refuse, and she is thinking of others as a priority. Through this scene, the acting ability of the lead actor, Hiroyuki Sanada, was conveyed through his sincerity. However, Tomoe no longer visited Seibei's house after that. Her 2 daughters also couldn't help but wonder if something had happened between Tomoe and their father, who were close friends. The heir was decided, and the samurai who had led the old system lost the battle for succession, so their purge began. Among the people who should be purged is Yogo Zeneman Tanaka, a master of the Idoroa style. Although Yogo was ordered to commit seppuku, he not only refused, but also killed Hattori, his assassin. He was holed up in his own mansion. One night Chobi Kusaka, Nenji Kobayashi, the leader of Seibei, suddenly visits Seibei's house. Hori-sama, the chief retainer, has an important announcement to make, so he asked Seibei to come with him. When Seibei visited the chief retainer's house, found out that the retainer knew that a rebellion had occurred in Edo. Fortunately, this information did not reach the central government of the shogunate. However, the problem is that Yogo cannot understand why he was ordered to commit seppuku, even though he was loyal to his superior. If they want to kill me, they should send a pursuer. He will fight and die, Yogo determined. He dispatched Hattori, but Hattori was killed. Then Seibei's name came up. Chief Retainer Hori keeps going to tell Seibei, "You learn the Tota style. Kill Yogo by twilight tomorrow. If you take it, there will be an increase in salary." He forced Seibei that it will make his lives a little easier. Seibei pauses and thinks for a while. I am afraid to say this. While trying to make ends meet for his poor family, he lost his desire for swordsmanship. In a serious game, taking someone's life requires the ferocity of an animal and the ruthlessness of taking life indifferent. I don't have that right now. If he is granted a 1-month grace period, he may be able to seclude himself in the mountains and regain his ferocity and ruthlessness. What is said today will not be possible tomorrow. Seibei replied that he would like someone else to take over this role somehow. The chief retainer didn't call you to listen to the Funa samurai's complaints, skipping over the boring stuff. It was an order from the clan to shoot Yogo. Do you understand? He was expressing his anger as if to spit it out. Seibei was again asked if he could spare a night or two, and his only reply was no. And for a while Seibei continued to think quietly. Finally, he answered, I understand. And I would be honored to take on the task of defeating him. Outside the gate on his way home, in the unlikely event that I lose today will be my last farewell. Thank you for what you have done. Seibei asks Kusaka to please convey my best wishes to my colleagues and superiors. The Kusaka clan, who was looking for a new attacker, ordered him to take on the sword of Seibei, who had served as a dojo instructor when he was young, and had defeated Koda in a duel behind Hanayaji Temple. Seibei refused, but the chief retainer did not allow it. The next morning, Seibei called Tomoe to his home, and asked her to help him get ready. He tells Tomoe that he has no choice but to go and fulfill the orders of his domain. And the other day I turned down his brother's offer. But from that day on, I started thinking about you. It has been my dream to marry with you since I was a child. The same thing happened when I got a wife. I will definitely come back home victorious. I asked her if she would accept this request. However, after Tomo's marriage proposal was rejected by Seibei, she ended up accepting a marriage proposal from a powerful family member in Aizu. When Tomoe was leaving, she did her best to say, "Oh, I can't wait here. But please be safe." This scene shows that both Seibei and Tomoe were filled with the feeling of not being able to finish this. Even though this might be their final farewell, Seibei wanted Tomoe to promise to become his wife, and he must have wanted Tomoe to wait for him in this house until he returned. Tomoe must have strongly blamed herself for having to tell him that she couldn't be his wife at a time when death might have separated her. It's a very sad scene of parting. This is Yago's mansion. A person was lying in front of the house, and flies were still swarming around it. The person left dead was Hattori, who had tried to kill Yogo the other day, but was cut to death. Seibei enthusiastically boarded the house and told Yogo that he would take Yago's life as ordered by the domain. But what he saw was a haggard Yogo Zeneman. "I'd like to have a little talk with you." "Well, why don't you sit down?" Yogo began, slurring his words. And words that he had never imagined came out of Yogo. He wants Seibei to miss him. As one might imagine, he had escaped seppuku. But if he was attacked one after another, there was no point in escaping seppuku. In this case, he probably thought it wiser to prolong his life without fighting. The Ronin era was tough. The loss of his wife and child due to labor cough. The seppuku that was ordered to him after working wholeheartedly for the clan. Seibei and Yogo empathize with each other's difficult circumstances. If you think about it, who is responsible for being sent to seppuku? It is the person who gave the sentence. Yogo is loyal to the Hasegawa clan of the Unasaka domain, and feels indebted to the Hasegawa clan. We, who live in modern times, cannot understand why Yogo had to commit seppuku. While talking like this, he begins to crunch on the bones of his daughter, who died young. When Seibei hears about this painful experience, it seems that Seibei's first feeling is sympathy. And then halfway through, feelings change to wanting to help his escape somehow. I was also thinking that Yogo would run and miss, showing signs of fighting. When Yogo learns that Seibei sold the sword his father gave him to pay for his wife's funeral, Yogo's attitude changes. "Are you planning on cutting me down with a bamboo light?" Seibei replied, "I was planning on fighting with a Katachi." And Yogo stood up. "Were you planning on killing me with your small swordsmanship? I won't forgive you." Being fought with a Katachi hurt Yogo's self-respect as a samurai, and he must have wondered what he had become. Seibei has not yet drawn his Katachi at this point, and tells Yogo that now is the time to run away. However, Yogo gets angry, and refuses to give in unless he cuts Seibei off. Seibei tells him again, "You can run away now again, but if you attack me, I'll have to cut you off." Even at this point, Seibei is still a true samurai who wants to let him escape. When Yogo told him to quickly get out of the way, he finally pulled out his Katachi. Yogo asks if Seibei will let him escape even if he gets cut a little. Seibei firmly replies that he intends to do so. Until the very end, Seibei is trying to help. He is truly a kind samurai. When Yogo was cut again, he passed away saying, "It's dark. I can't see anything. This is hell, it's twilight." It's easy to see that using a Kodak little short sword is advantageous when you consider the cramped indoor conditions. But unless you're very skilled, it can also be disadvantageous because the lengths vary widely. After winning the battle, Seibei returned to his home with his body covered in injuries. Waiting for Seibei were his two daughters and Tomoe. Seibei returns home thinking about Tomoe. Tomoe continued to wait for Seibei to be safe. He never expected that she would come here. She told Seibei she thought he was dead. His 5-year-old second daughter was held in her father's arms, and she boldly told him that she was Tomohanen, that her father had come home. Their hearts fell in love and they got married. Seibei, who took Tomoe as his wife, lived a happy life for just over 3 years. During the Boshin War that broke out with the Meiji Restoration, the Unasaka clan became a rebel army, and had to fight against the overwhelmingly powerful government army. Seibei was shot by a government army gun and died. Last scene. Seibei's second daughter Ito, Keiko Kishi, who is now in her prime, recalls her father. "They say he was an unlucky man, but I don't think so. He must have lived his short life feeling fulfilled, loving his daughter and being loved by the beautiful Tomoe." After the Meiji Restoration, vehicles changed from baskets to rickshaws. The second daughter, Ito, who came to visit the grave where Seibei and Tomoe are buried, gets on a rickshaw on the way home and disappears from the screen. Well, everyone, what do you think? This was one of the few period drama films directed by Yoji Yamada, who had mostly made contemporary dramas. But what remained after watching, it was a timeless reminder of the importance of family, and how heartwarming human relationships are the most important thing in human life. That means there is. Also, because the historical background was under typical feudalism, we had to be constantly conscious of the ephemerality of our lives, as we did not know when they would end due to orders from above. One of the major differences from today is that it was a time when people had to live in subordination to authority. Rie Miyazawa, who played Tomoe, was telling an older woman why she shouldn't talk to men, which was typical of feudal times. For this reason, the delicate changes in the hearts of people who live, such as sadness, joy, regret, and doubts about how to live, are manifested everywhere. And although the present and times are different, they pose problems to us. I'm giving it to you. And the other thing is that Rie Miyazawa is a flower. In those days the lights were only on at night, and it was pitch black. Her mother has dementia, and can't tell one person from another. And their homes are poor, and their hearts are dark. When Rie Miyazawa comes to visit Seibei, Seibei's house changes and becomes brighter, and that flower illuminates Seibei's heart several times brighter. While watching Atako wa Churayo, I really thought that director Yoji Yamada was very good at choosing actresses. There are different types of actresses, but the late Kawako Teiji, who played the Geisha Button in Torajiro and Yuie Koyuk in Atako wa Churayo, was one of a kind. Rie Miyazawa said in a stage greeting after the film was completed that she honestly felt like she could breathe in this film. Sweat was flowing and tears were flowing. She says it was a valuable experience for her director to strip her of everything, expose her, and perform. Rie Miyazawa, who plays Tomoe in the movie, plays a woman of utmost sincerity just like Seibei, and I fell in love with her. And the two girls who played the girl roles were wonderful. The lack of discomfort was perfect, making me wonder how a 5-year-old could play such a role so naturally. It also depicts the change in Yago's mind when he is almost forced to commit seppuku. He continued to resist, wondering why he had to commit seppuku. He's not a bad guy. He is actually a victim of this era. But not only that, he also begs Seibei several times to let him escape, rather than a weak heart. This seems to be due to his strong will to survive at all costs, as he was being swayed by the customs he had created based on reckless traditions without any sort of order. Next, in most traditional historical dramas, the difference in ability between the winners and losers is so obvious that you can't really feel the thrill of being cut or being cut. I'm sure some people like it because it's refreshing, but I think this one-on-one battle where you don't know the outcome is a true historical drama. This movie expresses that. The old Kenjiro Arashi was exactly like that. That's why it's so powerful. In this movie, he learned sword fighting from an expert and rehearsed until he was satisfied. And that was clearly conveyed. One last word. What kind of movies do we mean by good movies? I think a good movie is one that makes you think. I want to emulate the life of the main character after watching it. For example, in this movie, Seibei, who doesn't have a girlfriend, feels sorry for her childhood friend by making her feel poor because of her low salary. She falls in love with Seibei, who tries to comply with Yago's request to let him escape, even though it is an order from the feudal retainer. No matter how ordered by the chief retainer, Seibei is too honest to kill someone who wants to escape. In other words, he cares about people. The other day, she was a woman who listened to my poor explanation of Semi-Shijure, also written by Shuei Fujisawa, and she commented that there was something she could use in her daily life. I felt very happy. That's because the purpose of my explanation is this person's comment itself. I will continue to look for good movies and provide my poor commentary so that everyone can feel, even just a little bit, that life is interesting and worth living.